Welcome to the 5D Shift podcast with Openhand. It's where we take a higher dimensional perspective of the tremendous shifts, transformations that are happening on the planet right now through the field and that are impacting our lives so we can understand the real news of what's going on and then work to integrate that into every single aspect of what's going on for us. And in this episode, I'd like to look at the huge influx of dragon energy onto the planet right now. What's that all about? Much more than just a mythological, idealistic kind of concept. It is a very strong alchemical, catalytic energy that's infusing our planet right now. If we can work to understand and embody that, it's going to greatly help transform our lives and make sure we're coming from the higher energies of the shift and not the lower ones of the simulation. Stay with me. I'll be right back in just a few moments. We've entered a pivotal moment in Earth's history. People in all walks of life are waking up and challenging the 3D shadow system. They're turning away from the fake stream, going inwards and igniting the passion of their soul. We're shifting consciousness into 5D. What does that mean exactly? How and when will it happen? Openhand is a higher dimensional ascended master consciousness working to illuminate the pathway forwards through the stormy transition. But this is never about telling you the truth. It's about offering essential insights into the shift, tools, meditations, and spiritual practice so you can realize your own truth. Because ascension to 5D is something only you can actualize for yourself. Get involved. Explore, inquire, expand, liberate your soul. A tremendous window of opportunity is opening in the shift for the ascension to 5D. But that's not a straight line climb. And neither is it something you just click your fingers and it's done. Also, it's not about sitting back waiting for the vibration of the planet to rise mysteriously. It's about actually getting internal and doing the work for yourself. You're not doing that alone though, because benevolence is working to shift the field in an aligned, reanimating way to emerge from the 4D karmic construct that we've gotten embroiled within. So there are forces from higher dimensions, the star being nations, to support the shift, as well as us doing the internal work to meet that. And now we have this infusion of dragon energy, which is stimulating Gaia's Taurus and supporting her shift. Let's explore what that's all about. Well, firstly, shifts needed to happen within Gaia's energy field in order to sustain that kind of catalytic consciousness. If you just infuse with strong energy, it tends to become explosive unless it can be transmitted, mediated throughout the field. And in 2012, what we experienced was a shift of Gaia's consciousness into 5D. But what we weren't clear on and became more obvious to us this summer at the Openhand Facilitator Conference was that Gaia had gone to a degree out of body, holding the 5D paradigm, yes, but in the lower densities, she'd been languishing in inertia. The energies were stuck within the simulation, and the various machinations and convolutions, connections in, for example, with the star souls and their sacred contracts here, and other First Nations groups embodied, entwined within the field, have caused a great complexity, which has restrained her energies from shifting and moving in alignment with the grand galactic convergence. And this has all been manipulated, these convolutions, by intervention energies. And we've talked about in previous podcasts the the overarching or the background consciousness, the background entity of Ra pulling the strings on the simulation in society, and that has caused this locking down effect, which has caused a resistance to the energies accelerating and ascending in a more progressive manner. So what you've got is Gaia having been a degree out of body and the lower dimensional energies in some strong degree of inertia, resistant to change and transformation. Well, back at the Summer Facilitator Conference, we discovered in the heart chakra of Gaia that there was an implant. An implant had been placed there probably sometime after the 2012 shift, so as to contain the lower dimensional energies. We need to understand that the planet is greatly manipulated, has been, by the implantation of technologies to control, manipulate her 4D field. Influence that, and you influence below into the 3D. And the Anunnaki, for example, who are master architects of the energy field, have been largely responsible under Ra for creating those limitations and technology implants. So recruiting or inviting the evolved Anunnaki, now known as the Anu, to work with us is going to have a massive supporting, amplifying impact on resolving out the convolutions in the field. And this I've explained on a previous podcast, where we've worked to heal the Anunnaki, who now have integrated, raised their vibration, and become known as the Anu, working in a benevolent way with the shift. So they helped us remove this technology, and that supported a reanimation. Well, let me qualify that. Firstly, Gaia's higher energies were able to infuse again and reconnect and recalibrate, rebalance. And what this has meant has been an acceleration in her lower field torus, a reunification of the torus, a reanimation, a reharmonizing of that. That's what I think that's the best way we can appreciate what's gone on. And you've seen this in accelerating volcanic action. We saw, for example, how various volcanoes in the solar plexus chakra of Gaia have triggered since that point, both across Japan, but also some consider the solar plexus chakra to be more from Indonesia across Australia into New Zealand. To be clear, there are no exact locations because the energy field of Gaia, the magnetic field, is shifting all the time. So you can point to particular areas around the planet where particular chakras are strongest and there to be worked with. And we saw a triggering of the volcanoes around the solar plexus chakra of Gaia. We've also seen strong animations in her weather patterns: storm, wildfires, global heating and cooling. And to be clear, I'm not suggesting this is caused by man-made fossil fuel emissions, nor am I saying that there is no weather modification. Yes, clearly that is happening, but these are relatively small impacts compared with the movement of the magnetic field in the pole shift, the lowering of Gaia's magnetic field, the acceleration of the torus, and the infusion of cosmic and solar radiation as we move into a high energy segment of the galaxy at a time when the sun is going to a sunspot maximum that we're experiencing right now. So you've got a grand convergence of these different cycles that are triggering the shifts all the while. And now Gaia is responding more accurately to those movements, which is fantastic to see because that bodes well for all life on the planet. Following that shift of Gaia, following the reharmonization animation of a torus, Well, she was ready for the reactivation of what we can call the dragon Leylines on the planet, which are more deeply buried primordial Leylines beneath what we would usually recognize. And they were activated, stimulated, and really triggered at a planetary level. You can see it firing down the Leylines right now in different locations around the planet. And that's bringing a strong activation from the lower densities. But it's also being met by the influx of what we can call Lyran dragon energies from the higher dimensions. So you have this meeting of energies through the torus taking place. So a strong infusion and a strong upwelling being met, converging together. And to me, this is what the authentic summer crop circles were displaying, demonstrating in Avebury this summer. And it was clear that you had this influx of energies coming in, creating through the crop circle season, showing the activation of the dragon ley lines and the merging of these two powerful energy forces coming together. You have that happening right now. And that's been highly necessary. Why? Because you've seen firstly this locking down within the lower densities of Gaia's field, but also that's been manipulated greatly by a huge increase in the distractive nature of the simulation here, whether that's increased technology, increased EMF, increased distraction, manipulation of wars, of the financial markets, of the energy resources that sustain us. You've seen a huge increase in the manipulation and dramatization of those crucial aspects of life here. And with that, working too, the simulation is trying to push people into fear, to take them into kind of survival mode, and zombified, plugged into this high technocracy that is being unfolded at a very rapid rate. And you have to ask, why is this all amplifying so quickly, so rapidly? It is because they are on the back foot. It is because they are in some degree of, let's say, anxiety. I wouldn't say necessarily fear at this stage, but anxiety, trying to lock down, trying to really secure their simulation at the planetary level. And to me, they are failing. They are on the back foot, which is great to see, of course, for everyone. And the energies are coming through strongly. And this, to me, you're going to see a strong change of power on the planet, energetically, but also probably coming through society too. And that's a very welcome thing. So this infusing dragon energy is no just mythological, fanciful story. The energies are impacting, and you can feel it coming through right now, how strong that is, how vibrant the energies coming in are. And so they're necessary. The simulation's gone into overdrive, and here comes in this balancing, restoring, reanimating, and transforming energy. It's highly catalytic and it's highly alchemical. The question is then, amongst all of this transformation that's happening in the field, how can we each work with dragon energy? How do we understand it? What is the nature of it so that we can apply it most effectively in our lives? Well, firstly, we've talked about in Openhand how there are 9 rays of consciousness that form the soul ray harmonic, which is essentially, you could say, the nature of your personality energetically in an authentic sense. And what the soul is really working to unleash and animate in our lives and on our journey. And there are key characteristics which dragon energy amplifies. So a soul ray harmonic that has a strong dragon energy would have a strong ray 1, for example. Strongly catalytic, strong sense of will, drive, commitment, courage. But also, dragon energy is strongly empathic too. So it can sense, feel the nuances of the field that it's working within. The difference between the way dragon energy expresses the ray 2 and a highly sensitive empath would be it's more able to establish boundaries within emotional engagements. So it will catalyze from a benevolent standpoint for the interests of higher life, both of the person or the situation that energy is catalyzing, but also work from an empathic point of view and establish boundaries too, so as not to necessarily get sucked into all of the drama, because that slows the catalytic transformation down. So dragon energy has a strong ray 2 as well, but also of course ray 7, possibly the strongest ray, which is that of alchemy, which is that of being able to transform from sitting in the infinite potential and being prepared to sit in the unknown and take risk, to notice the feeling, the emergence of consciousness from the infinite potential, and to ride that energy with some degree of boundaried and measured risk, being prepared to take chances, to transform situations, not necessarily knowing what the outcome might be. Also, it's about reading those feedback loops. That's a big part of dragon energy. It's less attached to outcome. In fact, it's hardly attached to outcome at all. Although having said that, to qualify that, it is also about creating. It will create strongly, but it's just not attached to what it creates. It's more interested, more aligned with the feedback loops that it generates as it's flying, as it's creating, as it's animating. So really dragon energy coming from ray 7 very strongly has a strong ray 6 too. So self-determining, sovereign. Often dragon energy, or those with strong dragon energy, tend to be more reclusive, because a lot of projection can come one's way, which is often unfair and unjust, but nevertheless, there's a tendency to be more reclusive in company or whatever, to sit back, but also then step forward and act. But once that action, once that transformative catalysis has taken place, then a tendency to withdraw into one's own space. There is very much that dynamic within dragon energy. And clear to say that some people may embody a strong configuration of all of those rays, and you could say are more aligned with being a dragon soul ray harmonic. You could say that, and within that, different categories: earth dragon, water dragon, more working on the emotional plane, or air dragon, more catalyzing from higher dimensions, for example. So some people may have a strong configuration of those rays, and you could categorize them more as a dragon soul. I know that sounds a little strange to hear, but the soul ray harmonic can be within different categories, whether it's Pleiadian, whether it's Andromedan, Arcturian, or human. So we all have a particular configuration of the rays. But that isn't to say, let's say you don't have a strong orientation of that harmonic, you can still benefit greatly from the infusion of dragon energies. So it can animate key rays which will help you transform your life, whether it's the ray 7, for example, of alchemy, being prepared to sit in the unknown, or whether it's the strong ray 1 to really push forward in situations that need some strongly transformative effect in your life. So we can all benefit from this energy, even if you don't necessarily have that strong configuration. You can call upon the energies to transform particular situations of your life. How best then can we work with dragon energies? What kind of things do we need to be paying attention to in our lives in order to work with this energy to help us transform them? Well, firstly, the important thing is to make sure you're always connecting into the sacred ground of being, the pure presence of the core of you, and making sure your daily meditations help you in that regard. It's like you're mast in the storm, and that's going to become increasingly necessary, especially as you're riding strongly catalytic, transformative energies. So making sure you connect into your sacred ground of being. Also, inner purification is crucial, because as these energies infuse and the strength of them really impacts, well, it's going to stir up lower densities of the mental, emotional, physical, karmic planes. So you've really got to work to purify. Purifying diet is crucial, because if there's lots of convolution and density in the physical, then it'll really just impact that and stir it up. And that's going to feel very uncomfortable, especially in the dietary system, for example. It could cause discomfort and health problems if we're not careful. So purifying diet is important. On the emotional plane, being prepared to establish boundaries. What does that mean exactly? It doesn't mean detaching from society, from people, or from relationships. It's knowing where your pathway and your journey really lies. And this is one of the strengths of dragon energy, because it knows the bigger picture, the bigger purpose, the bigger movement. So establishing boundaries means knowing that movement, tuning into it, empathizing with others, yes, compassionately caring, yes, but knowing your pathway. And therefore, it's not your requirement, your job to carry the burden of another. It's for us each to work through the challenges we have to face. So connecting, empathizing, supporting, but boundary setting. This is my journey. I know it, I feel it, and I'm going with it. Catalysis. We need to become comfortable with sitting in the unknown and the risk that comes with that. So you may have situations in your life that you're not sure how they're supposed to work, unravel, transform. And that can send the being into a degree of turmoil, worry, fear, anxiety. We need to be able to get comfortable with change and develop a different relationship to anxiety or fear. What do I mean by that? Fear is not necessarily a negative energy, only if we interpret it that way and put it through filters. The challenge with Homo sapiens is that we've been conditioned for inertia and comfort, and whenever change is invited, it can precipitate anxiety or fear. But the feeling of underneath that reactivity and triggering is one of preparation, one of readiness, one of awareness, being open to new possibilities coming through and being relaxed enough but attentive enough. So it's relaxed attentiveness to be aware and watching for that sparking possibility to come through, and then picking it up and riding with it, even if that then pulls against what would be one's standard, regular, comfortable reality. That's the feeling that the energy can generate and cause, and getting comfortable with that and moving with that is important. And therefore I encourage plenty of freewheeling, for example, just to open the space, take off, and invite, show me, and feeling or sensing the impulses that then come through and responding to them and going with that. I would say freewheeling is a really important tool which we need to apply on a regular, if not daily basis now, until it becomes more a way of life. Freewheeling then happens within all aspects of life, from relationships to how you live and work. There's more freedom of flow within how you express and what you're doing. That's essential right now. Also, creativity, bringing in energies and allowing and encouraging energies that cause you to create for creation's sake, whether it's writing, vlogging, blogging, whether it's knitting, whether it's sewing, whether it's painting, playing a musical instrument, just to get that feeling of creating and the energetic sense of that coming through you. This is essential right now, and that will help animate these creative energies that want to come through with dragon. Also, we need to be aware that dragon energy, as I've said earlier, is less attached to an outcome, even though it will create, even though it will be fully engaged, immersed in these situations and endeavors that you have, but it's less attached to the outcome. And it's more about the quantum feedback loops that happen as dragon, let's say, is flying through a particular situation. So dragon is more interested in, is it expressing accurately in line with the bigger picture and flow, the bigger story? And the answer to that comes from the feedback loops of signs, synchronicity, of sacred geometry, of numerology, and in nature, colors, patterns, these kinds of things. So dragon energy is watching for those feedback loops to attenuate, attune its beingness in terms of how it creates. That's what it's more interested in. Yes, it's fantastic to create things, and dragon energy is highly alchemical in that regard. But it's more about, yes, the attenuation, the attunement was accurate. We got the flow expressed and infused accurately through that situation. And here's my feedback. My feedback is more metaphoric, but connected. That's what I'm really interested in terms of the dragon energy. I felt to add in here that during the recording of this, I felt a strong sense of frustration building up through the field. And I attribute this to earth dragon energies and the challenges, the frustrations they've felt of being contained, bottled up within this dog-eat-dog kind of matrix over the aeons. And it's felt as a sense of frustration, of anger, but also desperation. Get me out of here is the kind of feeling and how it's speaking and welling up through me and what I'm sensing of the field. And that's entirely understandable. And you may well be picking up on that. You may well be feeling it, but not necessarily understanding that it's coming from the field itself. It may be touching those frustrations and challenges, desperations that you might at times feel, but it might also be a part attributable to the field itself. So how can we work with that? How can we apply or integrate that for the most productive use in our lives? Well, I would say the crucial thing is to be able to contain it, to recognize it's coming potentially from elsewhere, and that, yeah, you may feel some degree of desperation, a real get me out of here kind of feeling. This is going crazy, and when will it culminate? When will we see a solution to it? Or you may well feel that. But a solution is coming, and providing you're tuning into the kinds of information and news that Openhand is sharing of the field and what the field is doing, then you'll have an understanding of the much bigger picture, and that'll help you see that a realignment, a grand galactic convergence is coming to transform this situation. So having a view on the bigger picture, containing the energies to a degree, but then working to express them in a physical, emotional way, either be it through power walking, jogging, whether it's body work in the gym, whether it's yoga, Could be martial arts, but providing that you're not projecting that energy out onto somebody else, of course. It's about working to channel it, contain it, put it into creativity, to innovation, to transforming situations. But where it builds and becomes frustrating, then to contain and open up and allow the higher dimensional energies, the more sophisticated dragon energies, we might say, to infuse in. So it's crucial we don't lock down in anxiety, fear, repetitive mental loops, because if we do that, we shut down the capacity of this potential, this alchemy of the higher dragon. So we've got to work to create a crucible to break through the frustrations, to interrupt the mind loops, to really work with the emotions. The water dragon energies can set boundaries, helping mediate through life's frustrations in relationships too, to set these boundaries and to ensure that you're really, yes, contained within your own field, although empathically feeling the situation. Yes, it takes a high degree of working with this and a high degree of mastery. So you're crafting the lower self, you're making it as a strong crucible to receive the influx of these higher dragon energies, this more alchemical, that can really transform the moment in a blink of an eye with some profound piece of magic that just cascades in and transforms the situation. So opening out, creating the crucible, working with that, and holding the space for the magic to come through. And then we'll be able to integrate these two energies, and we're going to be completely effective at coming forth through the matrix, and especially as it's now transforming. Now, what I'm advocating and encouraging is that we learn to apply this energy to transform various aspects of our lives, which we recognize have become disharmonious and need to be catalyzed and transformed in some way, whether that's relationships, how you live and work, all of life's circumstances. And so we can meditate with that energy and bring it through those situations. And that's what I propose to do now to essentially conclude the podcast with. So find yourself in a comfortable space, relax, bring attention into the breath. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. I find exhaling through the mouth strengthens the sense of dragon breath. Feel the connection into the sacred ground of being at the core of you. First, probably at the back of the throat, or it might come down into the heart, or it might spread up into the third eye. And you might feel these key centers connected into the sacred ground. As you inhale, breathe all the way up then into the crown, opening up through the crown. And as you exhale, exhaling right down through the head, the neck, the chest, and right into the abdomen, right to the base, making sure you're anchoring the energies right down. Now, from this place, I invite you to contemplate a key situation aspect of your life that has some kind of disharmony within it that you recognize requires transformation. Visualize, see the circumstances, who might be involved, what are the typical things that tend to happen that need to be worked with. And as you do that, as you visualize, feel any kind of contracting tightness in your field. Maybe it's around the third eye or the head, for example. Could be the solar plexus or the sacrum. Or else, possibly withdrawing from the base. Notice where these things happen. And imagine yourself now as this strong movement of light, which we can see and visualize as dragon, flying into those situations, empathizing, feeling them, but also working to unravel our attachment within them, because it's our attachment that has in part co-created the field locking down in those situations. Visualize, feel, sense yourself flying into those situations or that situation and empathizing, but working to release, unravel attachment in it. And so now you see, feel, sense the field beginning to unwind as you move through it. Now you may have to stop at some point if that's not happening for you, and work with activating karma or work deeper with releasing the attachments using something like the breakthrough approach. But as you become more adept at that, then you'll find yourself more able to merge, mediate through the situation and unravel through, transform through. You're actually engaging the energetic field which forms those situations that you sometimes get embroiled within. See yourself unraveling, see yourself unwinding through. Now, in that given situation, how do you feel to animate, which is more authentically you? If you visualize now how you might be, how do you see yourself presenting into that situation? Maybe it's more boundaried, caring, empathic, but boundaried. Maybe it's with more self-determination. Maybe it's more openness to change, to risk, to alchemy, the infinite potential. Maybe it's more will, drive, commitment. These are the qualities of dragon. So see, sense, feel yourself presenting, animating more from those energies, but in your authentic way. And without strategizing the situation, planning how you'll be or what you'll do, instead now just feeling the embodiment of that different energy that you will present with into those situations. Feel that energy. Feel it present with you, embodying it to the degree it feels authentic and right to you. And now trusting that the flow will mediate more accurately through those situations. Yes, you're going to have to step into them in this new way that feels authentic and aligned, but trust that the flow will work with you as you express authentically. And then in your life now, as you go forward, watching for the feedback loops that support your feeling attenuation of being. Okay, that was a fairly brief introduction to dragon energy, how to work with it, how to transform your life. I suggest that if you've been inspired by it, intrigued, and you can see how that kind of approach might support the transformation of key situations in your life, then do come and explore the Openhand work, the Openhand Ascension Academy, because we are working with that energy very clearly now in a determined way to help people transform their lives, to emerge from this simulation and really to go with the shift and thrive from those energies. I wish you well in your endeavors, in your journey, and I invite people everywhere to embrace this new energy and the sense of risk, but boundaried risk, taking chances to open and soften and feel these new possibilities triggering and coming through, and then stepping forward with them and watching the feedback loops support you. That's a great opportunity, a great possibility right now. And I'd encourage all to explore and work with this new infusing dragon energy. Namaste. Been inspired? Then get involved with the revolutionary work of Openhand. Join us on seminars and retreats, online and terrestrial, for groundbreaking meditations, illuminating self-realizations, and plenty of fun. It's all supporting the great planetary shift to 5D consciousness. Join kindred spirits today. Visit openhandweb.org.